G'day, mate. What's your name?
My name is Justin Hamilton. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer, and a guy who just kind of does stacks of things behind the scenes in the entertainment world.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thanks so much for joining me. Now, my guest today, Justin Hamilton, entertainment guru, comedian, writer, doer of all things show business. This was a really fun chat. Hamo's one of those blokes I bump into at rooms. We have great chats, intense chats, and then I don't see him for like a year and a half, and then you bump into him again, and it's just pick up straight where you were. Great chats. He's always got interesting takes on either what's going on in comedy, what's going on in show business. He's got great advice for your set. He's just a really fun, interesting bloke. So this chat was a lot of fun. Now, if you want to follow him online, he is at Justin Hamilton Comedian on Instagram. You can go to his website, justinhamilton.com.au. If you enjoy this chat and you think, gee, I want to hear more Hamo, he's also got a podcast which is absolutely awesome. It's called Big Squid Pod. You can find that at bigsquidpod.com. And if you're like... think, you know what, I want to read some of his writing. Well, he has a regular writing blog. It's called Dispatches from the Fury Road. You can find that online as well. So you can Google all that stuff, find out Hamo, where he's going to be, what he's up to. And if you do get to see him on a lineup, or you do hear that he's doing a festival show, he's not doing one this year, but he definitely will be doing more. His shows are always interesting. They're always something different to the last one. So get along, support Hamo. Now, if you are enjoying the podcast and you'd like to keep enjoying the podcast, please do like, subscribe, all that sort of good stuff. If you can see your way to leaving a review, that'd be awesome. Now, if you want to come see me live, my Sydney Comedy Festival show is on the 27th and 28th of April at the Wildflower Wine Bar at the Enmore Theatre. That's basically all I've got in terms of solo shows in the books at the moment. So just working on stuff. That show's going to be really interesting. It's there's a bunch of reliable material that I've been doing. There's stuff that I'm working really hard to get up to scratch for that show. It will be a good show. Don't be intimidated by the fact that I'm still working on some of the stuff. That's just part of the process. So yeah, it's going to be a real fun show. I'd love to for people to come along to that. So you can find ticket links at sydneycomedyfestival.com.au or via my Instagram, Andrew Barnett Comedy. You go visit the link in the bio. There's links to everything me there. So give me a follow on social media at Andrew Barnett Comedy on whatever your favourite social media is. Other than that, that's probably enough shameless plugs. Let's rip into this episode. This is my chat with Justin Hamilton. Yeah, you are one of those, like, it never surprises me, but also that's often like unexpected. It's one of those ones where when I'll say, what have you been working on? Like I'll bump into you and say, what have you been doing? And you'll mention what you've been working on. And it won't be what I expected, but it also makes perfect sense.
Right, yeah. There's been an evolution over since I started, which is coming up to 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I only know this because mums are good at dates.
Yep.
And mum recently said, oh, did you know it's 30 years on March 31st? And I was like, nope.
Wow.
I had no idea. But anyway, I think over time, you learn new skills. And I think there's also a sense that, like, when I was a kid and I was touring all the time and I was on the road constantly, that was great. And it was exciting, and I went to all these interesting places and I met all these interesting people, and every gig was different and they all had different flavors. And then you get older and you think, no, I'm good. I can't do that all the time. It's too tiring, So I think the necessity of wanting to stay in the business and having your career form in different ways that allows you to still do the performing side of things, but not having to rely on it.
Do you find too, because you do a lot of like stuff behind the scenes, so like sort of talent producing and stuff on TV shows, that sort of stuff. Do you find too that, and particularly writing too, you do a lot of writing for TV. What do you find that as you've got older, like when you start, like the comedy
the creativity is almost, it's about you. You've creative. I don't know about you, but when I started in particular, it's like I was coming up with ideas for me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be the vessel for the creativity. And
Yeah.
now, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to have ideas and go, oh, that wouldn't actually, I really like the idea and I'd love to work on it, but actually I'm not the best
Yeah.
vessel for that particular thing. Like where it becomes, I don't know, like I've had this evolution where it's becoming less about, the creativity is less about me and more about the process of the creativity and to get stuff out there.
It's funny that you bring this up because I had a conversation with Carl Barron last year. Carl Barron.
Here we go.
Here we go.
You have been around 30 years.
Yeah, I have. I'm friends with Carl. But
You've worked with everyone.
I've worked with a few. Yeah. But I was talking to Carl. He had come. I also worked with his partner at CJZ, who make Question Everything.
Yep.
And they'd come to see me perform, and I had a new routine, newish routine, which is a Barbie Oppenheimer routine that I was very happy with, and. He was talking to me about it because you know what comedians are like when they get together. They want to talk about the mechanics and
the bits.
Where did you come up with that and how did you put that together, etc. And I said to him, I got to the end of that piece the first time I performed it and I went, oh yeah, that's what Justin Hamilton says. And I thought about myself in the third person. And I said to Carl, I said, do you ever have that where you write something, oh yeah, that's a Carl Barron piece. And he looked at me and just went, no. And
Which is the most Carl Barron response.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Carl doesn't write for other people.
Yeah.
Carl only writes for himself. And because I have started writing for other people or workshopping, you know, material with other people, I suddenly now, you know, I've compartmentalized myself and there's my stand-up side, which is, oh yeah, that's something that I would talk about on stage. So that's a fascinating thing to kind of realize about yourself, that you're now just another vessel to at some point fill up.
Yeah, because it's like I and now I say this, so I'm interested in it, but as I'm doing probably more stand-up than I've done in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, but and I'm absolutely loving it. But it's interesting that like there still are ideas. I'm like, geez, that'd be fun to work on. But yeah, it's more about the idea than me trying to go, well, how do I make this good for me or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I do have to ask though, when Carl Barron is in the audience, of your show, are you conscious? Like, obviously, Carl, like probably you've known him for a long time anyway, but like that's an intimidating audience member. Like, have you ever had audience members that you like, oh, because I can tell you one who you probably, I don't know if you'd appreciate it are you into cricket?
Yeah, well, I was in, yeah.
So, Mike in Hand years ago, I was waiting to go on, and Dale Steyn was there to watch, and we just realised that me and Matty B had just realised it was Dale Steyn.
Right.
And then they come over and, oh, Barney, we need to start.
Yeah.
And I was hosting, and my first 10 minutes, all I could think was, oh, Dale Steyn's watching this.
Man, that is hard, isn't it? Look, I would... I can't think of anyone in particular, but there's definitely, maybe not even famous people, but there's definitely been people in the audience that you want to do well in front of. I don't know about you. Do you? I don't get nervous that often, but when I do, it can be in the weirdest places. Like I've performed at the Opera House, and there's been 2,000 people there, and I've just been rapt. I've just been
enjoying it.
This is great.
Yeah.
And then I've been back at the Rhino Room in Adelaide, which I've performed at who knows how many times, but I've performed there since the 90s, right? And then suddenly you're about to go on stage and you feel a bit nervous, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And I actually don't mind a bit of nerves. It means you're present.
Yeah.
You know, invariably the gigs that are a little bit tougher are the ones where you're just a bit too relaxed.
That I find that too. Like, I need just that slight shot of adrenaline before I go on stage to really make me present, to make me in the moment. Like, get a little bit into the fight or flight.
Yeah.
So that your brain's like on that level.
Yeah.
Because if I go out too relaxed, I'm the same. Like my brain doesn't naturally work as quick as it needs to be on stage.
Right.
I need that shot of adrenaline to be able to go back for a bit of tete-a-tete to know where I'm at.
Yeah, and if you're a bit too relaxed, you'll nobody will notice this, but you'll just you'll put words in a sentence incorrectly.
Yep.
And it's fine because most people are just along for the rhythm of what you're doing and the punchlines.
Yeah.
But and then you think, oh God, why did I do that? And then you're thinking about it. Why did I do that? Oh, am I a little bit too relaxed? And then it's like, hang on a bit, what am I up to? And you just
that's as soon as you're thinking about the process while you're doing it. I had one recently. I was really tired on stage. I had a massive day, and it was the second show, and I was doing half hour in both of them, and I was just like, and I got about and it's late, and the audience were tired, and so I was thinking about, okay, I need to. Sometimes you like to, if the audience is up, it doesn't matter if you're tired because you feed off that energy.
Yeah.
But when they're tired too, and you're like, okay, I need to bring them with me here. I'm pulling the weight. And I got partway through, so I was thinking about that, and then all of a sudden I was like, fuck, what am I? I'm not listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What am I saying?
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
Oh.
And sometimes you can come out a bit too hot as well. Sorry, I just had a moment of paranoia that this is on. I was so busy talking about being relaxed that I was like, was I meant to turn this on, this microphone? And then no, it's all good.
No, all good.
All good. Sometimes talking about being too relaxed can make you go, am I too relaxed now?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you can come out too hard, like you can come out too hot for an audience, and it's funny. Lots of people seem to think that general punters seem to think that you have more hits and misses, and that's not quite true in stand up. It's it's pretty level all the way through, but it's more what you know about yourself in your performance when you know that you've either knocked it out of the park or you've done your job.
Yeah, I find, because it's interesting you say in Adelaide, because that's where sometimes you get the nerves. But do you think that's that's where you started? There's people there that you've known for a long time generally, and they know you've gone away and you've come back, and so you're back there, and you get that. I better be better than I was when I was here because I've gone off and had this whole career, and they might have some expectation, and they know they see a lot of comedy, so I get that. Or if there's like a family member or a friend who hasn't really seen much, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is like a bit, or you care a bit more. The 2,000 Strangers. Could be anyone.
Could be anyone, yeah. I always want to have a good gig in front of my mum.
Yeah.
My mum had me as a single parent when she was 19. Heaps of our family suggested she should have an abortion. I don't want to give her a reason to think that she made a mistake.
The really late term. Okay, I've decided, Justin. I've finally made my decision.
That gig was awful.
Yeah, we're in the 70th trimester and I've made a decision.
You're out. So, yeah, it was the same. I did a one-off at the Melbourne Comedy Festival last year. I just did one show and I hadn't performed in Melbourne since 2019. And so it was, in the lead up, it was a bit nerve-wracking. And then I heard, because once again, because I lived in Melbourne for 13 years, and then I was backstage, and then I had no idea what my ticket sales were, and I heard the woman in front of house yell out, "Move along, we're sold out. Move along, please." And I went, "Oh, it's sold out." I had no idea, and it was Lower Town Hall, and I was I was rapt, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, "This is great. Why don't I just enjoy that?" And then, but in the lead up to it, just before I heard her say that, I had the two legs jigging backstage, sitting by yourself, thinking about it.
It's funny when you said you just did a one-off. My first instinct was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" The pressure you put on yourself to sell tickets across an entire run, like that. You're taking that out of it because you got one show.
Yeah,
you can, people you've got a profile there. People have come to see you over years and years and years. So you can probably be pretty sure that's going to sell well, that one show.
Yeah.
But then it's funny how like we can take the good part and then focus immediately on the other part. Is like, I haven't done this show. I've got one night. I've actually got to nail this.
Yeah.
The people that came along.
Well, you know, so I don't. I'm interested to know this with like when you're doing new material or stuff. I find doing new material, or doing a one-off show, I have a pretty high strike rate. Like I can hit something pretty hard 90% of the time. And then it's somewhere between the second and the fifth that it'll be dog shit. And that's kind of when I'll learn the most out of the routine, you know, because it's like it doesn't have the energy of being performed for the first time. So therefore, your performance isn't covering up what might be some patches in it that need to be fixed. And then that's where I learn the most out of the routine. But if I'm just doing a one-off, then I'm not thinking about the next show because this is the show.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about how can I improve it because it's happening right now.
Yeah, it forces you into that moment.
Yeah.
I think too, like I have similar thing. Like if I've got something new that I've sort of actually I had time to work on and I've structured a bit in my head, I'm going to try this. The energy sometimes of that new material that the audience almost feel the high wire of it, and that's exciting to them. So sometimes it'll go really well, and you're like, well, fuck, nailed that first time out.
Yeah.
And then you go out the second time with a bit of confidence in it, and
Yeah.
that high wire energy's gone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're judging it on its merits, and you're like, oh no, there's still some work to be done.
This still needs a little bit of construction. Yeah.
Oh, this needs a finish.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's you know, you underestimate your performing skills, and that fear brings them to the fore.
I'll be honest. I've only in the last, I reckon, 2 years started to actually be conscious of my performance skills. Like, because very naively, I think for a lot of my time, I was able to get by with being able to say the words in the right order or whatever, and just I was one of those guys. Well, if the writing's good, it's funny.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise until the last couple of years where if you actually put some effort into selling it,
Oh yeah.
Like- sevens go to nines. Like
Yeah.
you can really if the audience go, oh, he believes this. He's not just telling me a story. Like
Yeah.
it's not just just up there giving a speech.
Yeah.
Like there's some energy behind it all, and that's one thing I've in the last sort of little bit trying to focus on and be much more aware of. Like I'm much more conscious now of when I go on stage tired,
Right.
that I have to actually have fun.
Oh yeah. Do you do anything physically before you go on stage? Like I'll do a bit of stretching.
Yeah.
And then people will look at me as if like, are you about to run a marathon or are you going to stand in the one spot and talk for 20 minutes? But I always find, even with, say on Question Everything, if people are nervous, you kind of hold the nervous energy in your joints. So if you can kind of stretch it out and move it through your body, then, without sounding like I'm about to get all new age and sell you a candle that's made out of my sweat, you kind of push it through, and then that helps with the performance.
I find that too. Like I've always stretched, and probably I remember some similar thing. Someone commenting, I was stretching, like I was trying to touch my toes, like stretching my hamstring.
Yeah.
And someone made a comment about it, and I said, look, to be fair, I've never torn a muscle on stage, so
Yeah, so I'm doing something
yeah,
right.
be ready. You know, imagine going down with a torn calf as you get to the microphone. Oh no.
No, it'd be so embarrassing.
This is why I don't want to see comedians in their 40s.
Yeah, exactly. They can't even make it for 4 steps. Do you have any performance tricks now that you have on the stage without giving away your secrets? And what I mean by that is, with certain routines, I can kind of picture certain people that, especially if it's a story, I can picture certain people that I've told that story to, and their reaction will make me laugh, and I let that happen on stage. So therefore, people can see that I'm enjoying the story.
That's real clever. Because I don't know if I do that so much. My big one now is I try and be smiling right before and as I go on stage.
Oh yes.
And bring that happy energy into and it's not that all my material is like, hey, how good's life? But it's
Yeah.
that if I go out there looking like I'm ready to have fun
Yeah.
and be playful, and that's what I've just sort of, because I never was one to like laugh at an aside or whatever.
Right.
But just if something does happen and I'm entertained by it, now I'm give myself like that. Oh yeah, laugh.
Oh, yeah.
We're just all having fun, and it's actually I tend to, my other trick is I'll tend to look to. I call it, I try and ground myself in the room where if something's happened weird in the night, I'll try and comment on it or just at least acknowledge if something weird happens in the room, not be scared to just go to it or then find a person who, if I'm going into something that I'm talking about, find a person in the audience who might relate or it might relate to and get into it through just a few questions with them. It's not really crowd work, but it's that making it feel like, oh, this is happening now.
Yes.
Right, and looking someone in the eye to tell them to talk to them.
Yeah.
Drags me out of that just staring into the space at the back of the room where it's a detached performance sort of thing.
Yeah, it's quite easy to skim the tops of people's heads with performance. It's looking at certain people, making eye contact, pointing at them, that kind of thing. Also, that person who gets the look, the people around them see that they've gotten the look, and then they might get a look a little bit later on, kind of thing.
Well, it also, if they feel like, oh, I'm looking around and I'm talking to specific people.
Yeah.
If you're in the audience going, oh, I might be actually talked to, I might have to answer a question, or whatever, it sort of drags you in to pay attention or whatever, because no one wants to be like, oh, sorry, mate, I wasn't listening.
Yeah, absolutely. No one wants that fear. A bit of advice I give, it's kind of cheesy advice, but it was advice that was given to me back in when I first started. I started off in a duo, and we were performing the
Bunter Boys?
The Bunter Boys, that's right. And we performed the night that Kurt Cobain had committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
And it was, the room was packed, and it was, everyone was pretty upset. It was, that was the audience as well. It was a young audience. And a lot of the comedians were just coming up and trying to do edgy Kurt Cobain material, and it was not going well. And Jack Smith, who was the Canadian guy who had started that room and ran it, he came up to my mate Damien and I, and he said, you doing any Kurt Cobain jokes? And we were like, no. He said, good, big smiles, best night of your life. And it's cheesy, but big smiles, best night of your life is a good energy to take to the stage. And invariably, when I've had a run where I've been a bit flat, even though, it sounds like it comes from Vegas, that idea of big smiles, best night of your life really is infectious for an audience and can get them right back on track.
Well, I think that also acknowledges why they're there. Like they've come because they want to have a good time. They want to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And if you're enjoying yourself, that is like, it's like, I know, like it sounds, that big smiles, best night of your life, that sounds very old showbiz. But there was a reason, like, especially like, in that post-war era, that people were going to those clubs, those old, the Catskills and all those sort of, in Vegas and whatever. They go there to get away from the rest of their life. They don't want to think about, they want it to feel like fun.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't always have to be all light and, beer and Skittles, but like I always think that you can talk about whatever you want as long as as long as they're coming away feeling a bit better, feeling like you can build as much tension as you want. You've got to release it.
Yeah. You can talk about whatever you want, but don't forget you've got to have some jokes because you're a comedian. Yeah. And so, therefore, if you're going to talk about something that's serious, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it's a good thing to do, just don't think you're doing a TED Talk.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't mind like when a comedian, and especially like you see people who do it really well, make the audience uncomfortable with what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But at the end of that discomfort has to be a release.
Yeah.
There has to be that laugh to go, ha ha ha, okay, we're all right. It's like if you had a horror movie that just built tension and never paid off.
And you'd be a nervous wreck by the end of it.
Just be like, I don't know what I've just seen.
Did you see the Oscars at all?
No, I didn't this year.
Jimmy Kimmel did a great bit at the start where he was talking to Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie, and saying, Greta Gerwig in the front row, not nominated for Barbie. Lots of people think that you should have been nominated for Barbie, and that room, erupted in applause. Yeah. And then he said, don't you guys clap. You're all the people who voted. You had your opportunity. And it was like, that's great. Made a point. Did it with a big smile. Got a big laugh.
Exactly.
But he got the message.
It's a nice little dig at the hypocrisy of everyone in that room.
Yeah.
To your face. Yeah. But
with your stand-up and your performance, do you have goals on things that you would like to achieve as a performer? Are there skill sets that you would like to develop, or where are you with stand-up?
No, to be honest, at the moment I feel like I broke down like a while ago when I first did, it must be 7 or 8 years ago when I first did a cruise ship, and you have to do the carnival ones where you got to have the 5 separate things, and I broke down all my material and just see where we fit, and I realised there was maybe 4 themes that most of my material was built around.
Oh right, yeah.
And so now I'm trying to either explore, go, okay, well, in those things, where haven't I gone?
Yeah.
Or what can I... But I'm fascinated at the moment with because I think it was when we all had, there was cultural touchstones, when there was a bit more of a monoculture, when we had less internet, people watched broadcast television, a bit of pay TV or whatever, but there was cultural touchstones that sort of were shared experiences. And I think there's getting less and less of those, in that there's lots of them, but they're for smaller groups.
I genuinely, this might sound, I don't know, this might hurt some people's brains, what I'm about to say, because it sounds like I'm anti-progress and a bit of a Luddite, but I actually think things were better when there was a monoculture, because therefore it was a shared experience. And now it's like, I don't know about you, but when people talk about TV shows, for example, nobody talks about what they watched. Like they'll tell you what they watched, but nobody talks about what they watched. So it's like, did you watch the new season of True Detective? Nah, but I am watching Shogun. Oh yeah, right. Haven't seen Shogun, but I did watch the new Fargo. Look, I haven't seen Fargo yet, but nobody's talking about what actually happened and what it made them feel and what they experienced from it, because everyone seems to be disconnected. So it's just like a checklist. Yep, no, I've got this. No, I missed that one. Yep, got this one. Yep, cross that one out.
It does feel like, especially people who are in in that sort of world where you've got to be across the cultural touchstones, or you're interested in what's going on in entertainment. It does feel like homework a lot of the time, like in terms of like, oh man, like I'm really interested to see all this stuff, but there's so much of it. Yeah. And then, I don't know about you, but the amount of times I sit down to watch something, I've finally got some time. Yeah. And I'm like, I got a big list of stuff I cannot remember any of it. And then that's when I'm too tired, I'll watch reruns of The West Wing again.
Oh, you go to the comfort food.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I'm rewatching Community with my 15-year-old at the moment.
Oh, great.
And loving it. Yeah. And he's watching more than me, but it doesn't matter because when I get home, he can retell me the episode word by word.
Yeah, so. Great. That's cute. But that's why. So there was a period where after, this is going back now, but after the last proper lockdown, I'd been lucky enough that I'd been working on the Chase Australia and Question Everything. So I didn't go back to stand-up immediately because I was like, there's comedians that need that money. Yeah. And it'd be churlish for me to get a week at the store when someone needs that. I don't need it. So I thought I'll wait like 6 weeks before I book anything in. And then 6 weeks stretched out to 7 months. And I was like, I didn't do one gig. And I was like, this is great. Like, I can go out on a Friday, Saturday night. I can stay in. Like, I can do all of these things, And then I thought, maybe it's done. Maybe stand-up's done for me. And then COVID wiped out the store and they needed people, and my management got in touch with me and said, do you want to do it? And I thought, yeah, it's good to keep your hand in. And I went and I performed, and they called me and they said, how'd it go? And I said, I went along, I said some jokes, it went really well, the audience was great, I had a really good time, and I've never been angrier, you know? So they said, do you want to do some more gigs? And I said, yeah. Anyway, this is a roundabout way of talking about the monoculture. I booked myself in for a week of hosting, and it was the week that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And finally, there was something that everyone had experienced. And the course of that week of putting together material that everyone, even if they hadn't seen it, they were across it, felt kind of old school, you know? And because, I don't know if you remember, but who knew what was going to happen? So because I was emceeing, I was checking my phone up until about 15 minutes when I went on stage, because I didn't want to walk out there and go, hey, what about Will Smith? And someone yells out, he just killed himself. And you go, here's your first act, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. Moment of silence, anyone?
yeah, for the best way to start a comedy show, right? Yeah. So then, but the physical act of putting things together and creating a routine that was probably 4 minutes on a Tuesday, and by the end on the Saturday was a 12 to 15 minute bit, and that's all I was talking about, and building it off all the things that had happened. Like it was the Thursday night when I saw a video of O.J. Simpson saying that violence is never the answer. I went, bingo, thanks O.J., that's going in the show.
Yes. You're writing my tags.
Thank you very much. But you know, that was a sense of the monoculture, and you could reference something that everyone was on board and everyone had some thoughts. That's why I was so wrapped with the Barbie Oppenheimer routine that I wrote last year, because once again, even if for some reason you hadn't seen either of those films, you knew what they were, so therefore you could write a routine that, you know, was a personal reflection on it and a POV, and not having to waste a whole lot of time trying to explain it to people.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna naturally go back in some ways to looking for those shared experiences again. Yeah. Because like, as much as, you know, we're celebrating the individual and everyone's a precious flower and whatever, like, you know, everyone's worth exactly the same amount in the cosmos. Yeah. We also just actually all just want to share everything that's going on with each other. Like you want to have common experiences with people where you can sit down, because people make fun of small talk. Right. But the reason people talk about, can you believe the weather lately? It's because it's the one thing you can say to a stranger that you know you've both experienced.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, mate, sorry, I don't really...
I haven't seen the weather today.
I got to be honest, I live underground and I came here via tunnel. Yeah. I'm subterranean, mate. Weather doesn't affect me.
Yeah, people don't like to say it, but I'm anti-sky. Yeah.
Just more big sky chat, eh?
But it's true, and I think because, you know, sometimes my frustration with younger comics is not that they're talking about things that are new or things that I don't relate to. It's that they don't give me enough jumping on points to understand their worldview, you know? So, I want to learn. I want to hear. I want to laugh at the things that you've had to experience to help you become this person. It's... this is mad. I'm turning into old man yells at clouds, but this is, how many times do you see someone who is doing well online who can't put together a 7-minute spot that works at the Comedy Store? And it's because, you know, they'll have all these little bits that work, but they don't know how to put it together to create a narrative. So you'll see someone walk on stage and he'll say, I was bullied as a kid. And then the next routine, he'll be bullying someone. And then he'll say, I'm bad with women. Yeah. And then he'll talk about his long-term relationship. And if you're in the audience, that's 100 seconds of conflicting information.
As a bunch of TikToks or Reels spread over 6 weeks, you can be different people, but... Yes. In a 7-minute set, there needs to be some cohesive narrative about who this person is that's talking to us, their point of view. You need audiences you can do. I heard it explained really well. Is you can be anything in comedy except confusing.
Yes.
Like if the audience are going, wow,
Yes.
I thought this was like that's different part of your brain. Once that's engaged, you're not ready to laugh.
Even if you're confusing, you have to explain that you're confusing.
Yeah, it's got to be confusing for a reason. They've got to feel like they're supposed to be confused.
Yeah, yeah. No. That's so true. Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. That's yeah. And so when I'm working with like with comedians on Question Everything, it's always it's funny, ostensibly the secret to being a panelist on Question Everything is you'll get asked the question, answer the question, bring something personal off the back of it. And so last year we had someone on and they were answering a question about something that had happened at a school. And the comedian answered it with a joke. And I said, what's the personal thing? And they were like, I don't have anything. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have anything? And so I just don't have anything.
You're not a person?
I said, hang on, when did you go to school? And they said, I went in these years. And I was like, they finished in 1980. And I said, you went to school at a completely different era to everyone here. So you've got to have some things, some insights, some experiences that no one here can relate to.
Surely you've noticed something.
And then as soon as we started talking like that, this person was like, oh, well, I did see a PE teacher at my high school who was an ex-British military officer make a future swimming gold medalist get down on his knees and lick up a loogie that he'd spat on the ground. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
No one wants to hear about that story. Don't worry about that. What are you doing? That is the...
Yeah.
Man, that's... The fact, too, that person's had that many experiences, that's just sort of been shuffled to the back.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be hard, especially going through your own stuff. But you want people to be able to, and so that's when I'm working with them. That's what I try to help them develop, that narrative that by the end of their stand-up spot, or by the end of their show, or by the end of their appearance on a TV show, the audience at home has a slightly broader picture of who you are and why you are the person that you are. And then, once an audience knows you, every joke that you tell hits 15% harder, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I remember actually when Akmal was on this, he told me that the thing he learnt touring with Jimeoin was, he goes, Jimeoin gave them, they felt like they knew him by the end of it. They felt he was so personable that he was just building this audience. And and having worked with him since, and that audience has stuck with him over many, many years now.
Yeah.
But it is that thing. He's a personable, like he gives just enough of himself. Like it feels like a genuine interaction or an interesting perspective. You know where this person's coming from, and you're keen to hear more. Yeah,
it's his audience. When they see him see his shows, it's I'm catching up with Jim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's what I think. Going back to what I was saying about, like, I think what's interesting me in the writing at the moment is trying to find those things that are universal, or at least, like you said, with the frustrating thing about when you watch some younger comedians, you're like, oh, I'm interested in your world. You need to get a jumping off point. It's trying to find accessible ways into talking about things that are, and I hadn't really thought about this clearly, about that I'm experiencing just from my point of view, and it doesn't need to be, like, it's talking about the universal from a specific, from a personal point of view sort of thing. Like at the moment, I've just realised I've a few things about, and everyone does that, I'm getting older or whatever. But just my angle is more along the lines of, I actually hadn't noticed I was. And then just nature gives you these little signs.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't, because that's what I say to the audience. I always, going back to grounding myself in the room, if there's a young one, I say, how old are you, mate? Like 24. So what you don't realise is everyone here in their head feels about your age.
Right, yes.
I said, in my knees, I'm definitely 42.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm always your age. And that's what you don't, just that experience, and then just noticing people my age, or even, it doesn't matter the age, they're just going, oh yeah, I'm like...
Yeah.
just identifying with that, and then being able to have fun with all the little things then that are making me notice I'm getting older.
Mate, mine's reflections. When you don't realise there's a mirror somewhere and just a window.
Yeah.
And then you kind of turn around and you think, who the fuck? Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's what I look like when I'm not holding my stomach in and holding my chin at a certain angle.
That's what I had no idea. I sucked my gut in the mirror until you just walk past and go, that's what it looks like naturally.
Oh, God, this is a disaster.
I got work to do.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to someone who... I was trying to explain to them, because I'm 51 now, and I've had a few friends say, oh, you don't look 51. And you go, oh, okay, thanks. But this new friend was like, oh, I don't know what they're telling you that for. You definitely look 51. And then she said, like I've got gay friends that are your age, and they look much better than you. And I had to say to her, hey, if you think that way, that's fine. But part of my job is to be delusional enough that I'm not fucking awful to look at on stage.
Yeah. I have to stand in front of people and not have me think that they all go,
oh, what's going on with that pudgy arsehole?
I'm picturing, just so you know, the friend that I'm picturing, she's a bit younger than you.
Yes.
And she's an attractive female.
Yes.
Because that's an attractive female thing of like that. That's not a perspective a guy in his 30s says.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's very specific to someone who's lived in an attractive world.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. And trying to explain, my whole career is precarious. I don't need to have any, like I have enough issues and I have enough worries and I have enough of everything else. If I just feel like I look 48, just let me have that.
Yeah, mate, I just need enough anxiety to create a creative itch. I don't need excess.
I don't need any more. I don't need it creeping up on me,
I've
like
found
it's
the
fine.
way. You don't look like your age, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, but like I know when I used to have a routine where I would walk from one side of the stage to the other and acting out. It was a story about a tram ride in Melbourne and it being packed, and I would act out all the positions people were in when they walked onto the tram, and it's like a game of Tetris, right? And that routine over time became a barometer of my fitness, because when I was fit, I would just do that all to one side and I'd get to the end and it'd be great. And when I was unfit, when I'd get to the end, I'd think, I need everyone to laugh for a bit because I need to get my breath back.
You're getting unfit. And then the tram stopped and there was a park bench. There was a guy sitting on the park bench. Now, this guy, just sit down for a bit.
Just going to act this out for a moment.
He was just catching his breath like this.
Yeah, wow, he's really into this acting bit. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's funny. It is part of your job is a little bit of delusion, like because you need to be a healthy level of delusional to keep striving.
Well, you also need to be delusional enough to think that there's a room full of people that might want to hear your thoughts.
Oh, it's outrageous that we get up on stage and think that we're like the funniest person in the room.
Yeah, you go in there, you go, hey, this is your Saturday night. You're out. This is your social event. You spend a bunch of money. Shut up while I talk.
Yeah, I think it's a real responsibility.
Yeah.
Like especially, I'll do different types of material for, like when I'm on when we're doing the store. Nobody's there to see me. Yeah. They're there to see the night. There might be some people there to see me, but the majority of people are there for a night of comedy. So if that's the case, I try to be as broad as possible and give them as many jokes as I possibly can. And then when I'm doing a show, then I'll go into some more complicated routines or longer stories and stuff like that, because I figure if they've invested in me, then I can take them in a slightly different place. Yeah.
That's what I've taken to when I plug my shows now after doing a set, like if I've got a festival show coming up, I'll often say to them, so if you've enjoyed my set and you'd like to spend an hour in my brain, come along.
Yeah, great.
Just so they know that it's not all exactly the same, but it's just, look, that's That's the sensibility you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You want to see where that goes? We've got an hour.
Yeah, great. That's a good way of doing it, I reckon. And it really...
Yeah, well, ticket sales wouldn't suggest it is. But,
isn't it? Oh,
no, it's all right. I think it does all right. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, we're in an interesting phase with tickets now, like how people build their audience and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It is going back to the idea that the lack of monoculture or the lack of the industry's in a real changing flux, because you see guys getting big off TikTok and being able to sell big tours and that, and I've thought of, okay, man, you know, because everyone says, oh, you got to get on TikTok, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then, but I'm trying to be, and I don't know if it's just justifying laziness, because I don't really want to be someone who posts on, because I had a young comedian tell me the other day that you're supposed to for TikTok to work for you, three posts a day, so 21 a week.
Ah, fuck that.
I'm like, I do not have 21 funny thoughts a week. Not that I can share on the internet.
But you know, so I think I got onto TikTok, I was still at radio, so I reckon it was like 2016, and I looked at it for, like, it was that morning. I was in the studio and I looked at it for like half an hour and I went, you know what, I'm just happy to be, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know? And it's, you know, it's like sometimes I go on Reels. So I'm on Instagram. But sometimes it'll be like something, it'll be like an attractive young girl and she'll say, what do you think of this cake? And the person who's filming it will lean down, look at her bum and say, it looks fantastic. And then she'll turn around and go, not that cake. And you look and it's got hundreds of thousands of views and a hashtag comedy.
Yeah.
And it's like, good on you that it's working, but I can't post shit like that.
And I can't compete with that.
But I also, I don't know how to, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm going to get a steak, but I'm a vegetarian. And then that's my clip. You know, I don't know how to...
Yeah.
My brain's not going to work in non sequiturs that don't really make sense.
And if you were to build an audience through that non sequiturs, when they actually bought the ticket, which is why you essentially would want them...
Yeah.
It's like, I think there are people who the big profile is the end. But I think for a lot of comedians, including ourselves, it'd be the means to the end, which the end is you want to build an audience that can come see your live stuff and you can tour and you can share your comedy in live, which is where it's always best.
Yeah.
But if they're seeing you do a bunch of non sequiturs on TikTok and they're like, I love this.
Yeah.
And then they come along and see the Hamo show that's, you know,
got a 7-minute story. They'll be like, what happened?
What?
Mate, just say that stuff that doesn't quite make sense.
What's with all the sequiturs?
Yeah. What's up with you arsehole? You know, I had a friend recently tell me, so if I get breakfast, right, and at a cafe, I'll order, let's say I order
I'm interested in this too, by the way. I love a breakfast order.
Oh, yeah. So say I get poached eggs,
Yep.
avocado, feta, pickles,
Nice.
and some mushrooms, right?
Yep.
So it gets served, and then what I'll do is I'll mash the avocado into the toast, and then I'll get the feta and I'll put that into the toast, and I'll put the eggs on one side, and then I'll put the pickles on one side, and I'll put the two bits of toast together, and then I'll have the mushrooms in the middle, and then I'll break the yolk, and then I'll, put some pepper on them, etc. Yeah. Anyway, and a friend of mine said, that is one of the most mesmerizing things I've ever seen. And my other friend said, yeah, I watch it all the time. And then it turned out that the girls at the cafe that my mate and I go to always mention, let's see what he's going to do with the breakfast. And so they were saying, you should do a reconstructing breakfast. So, there's deconstructing.
Yeah.
I should just be ordering breakfast and filming it and
Right.
reconstructing it. And they said that could be your thing. And I actually thought that was a really good idea. And I'm never going to do it.
And
I
look,
just know.
to be honest, I would end up watching that because my algorithm now, it's basically smoked meats,
Yep.
recipes that I
Yep.
want to watch. It's there's occasional comedy. I've got these. There's an account that I'm obsessed with at the moment that is funnier than there's 3 accounts that I've been watching. One's called America's Got No Talent, which is just basically people axing themselves.
Yeah.
There's one called Kids Getting Hurt, which
Speaks for itself.
it is like because they don't get hurt like badly.
No.
It's just,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But
kids
it's enough that
it's always funny.
yeah.
And then there's another one just called Boys Being Boys, which is like it's stuff like guys just getting like on the side of a hill, they get a big like they're sort of half digging out a big rock that's tugging, and they just roll it down the hill and into a pond or something, and they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just endlessly fascinating and fun. Now that one, I made the mistake of going into the comments section on the other day,
Okay.
and it. I'm worried about some of the other boys being boys. I think they're a bit incelly, but
Right.
for my enjoyment, the bits of just guys.
The clip's fine.
Yeah, throwing a big log off there was a great one of those big water pipes spraying out like in a bottom of a gorge, and they just got a log and threw it into the spray and said go shoot across. Like, it's just stuff like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I'm never going to write comedy. I like to think I'm good at comedy, but I'm never writing anything that I'll be able to look at that meets guys throwing a rock into a massive surge of water and seeing it fly across. Like it's not an even playing field.
Yeah. Like my algorithm is ostensibly interspecies friendships. So it's like a duck that's friends with a cat, or a donkey that's become friends with a possum.
Yeah, I get a bit of them.
They're just pals.
Yeah.
And they're hanging out. Or the one I was watching on the bus on the way here was a puppy that found a cat in the rain and was bringing it home. And now the family's adopted the cat and they live together. And you go, great, that's what I want. Just happiness.
Yeah, there's no, like, I can tell you the best joke I've ever written. It's not going to make you long-term as happy as seeing that video.
Yeah.
So, well, it's not an even playing field. But so, back to with your write, one of the things I'm interested in is, so when you're write, because you do a lot of, like you've written for radio, for TV, obviously, and you help comedians on the panel shows and stuff you work on. How do you find that process different? Because it's fascinating what you said earlier about that. That's what Justin Hamilton would say. How do you approach when you've got because early in comedy, find your own voice. Then sort of next level is being able to find the voice or write for the voice of people around you, and those are all, if they're good comedians, and I mean when the level people are getting on those shows, they're quite established comedians. So they've got their own voice. How do you go about writing for different or identifying what would work in different voices?
So I work on the Chase Australia, which is, for people who haven't seen it, it's a quiz show, and it's everyday normal people going up against people who are very good at quizzes called the Chasers, and they are all different characters. So you write to the character of each person. So I can kind of speak to, so we had a couple of years ago, we had a new chaser, a young girl called Mara, whose character is the smiling assassin. And Mara...
Is she the one that wears pink all the time?
Yes.
Yes.
And when Mara started, the bosses wanted her to speak, they wanted her to be sassy, and they wanted her to be, a little bit edgy. And so I was writing jokes like that, but
Sorry, my version of a little bit edgy is like when she chases them down in the quiz, she's going, "Gotcha, cunt."
Oh, yeah.
Fuck off home. No cash for you.
It's amazing. You think of all these things and then you discard most of them, and then you But it was funny. I didn't really think any of them were landing for maybe the first 10 episodes of us working together. She's brilliant. Like, she's a crazy smart girl, and
they are smart people. Those chasers.
Yeah, but Mara is, she is sharp, and she's fun. But, we were just working together, and then I can actually remember the joke that unlocked her character. And it took me, I reckon it took about 10 episodes. And what I realised about Mara is that she's unrelatable, and she knows it. So we wrote a joke where there was a young guy being interviewed by Larry Emdur, and he talked about how he gets together with his mates and they like to get together and compare craft beers. And so I had Mara come out and say, oh, your friends and my friends are very similar. You get together and compare craft beers that you've experienced. I get together with my friends and we compare Swiss chalets that we stayed at over summer. And then she looked at Larry and she said, I'm totally relatable. And it's like, there she is. That's the character. And so once we clocked that, it made writing for her very easy because we knew the angle that we were coming up with. So there's the specificity to that I can speak to. But then working on, say, working on the chase, on Question Everything, I'll listen to, it's a little bit like when I direct as well, or, work with any comedian. I'll listen to their ideas and I'll try to find angles. And what I always say to anyone is, if I make a suggestion that doesn't work for you, that's fine, because what it means is it'll help define the right decision. But we're going to be pitching a lot of stuff. So if I pitch something that you like and you want to use it. And if I pitch something that doesn't quite work and you feel like it's not quite right for you, then that will kind of block off one area, and that will help us go in the correct direction to find the joke that is right. So I try to kind of listen and build off who they are and where they're going with things, and then write accordingly.
It's funny you said when you said too, like the stuff you write that is never going to make it to air. Like with Mara, you have a bunch of ideas that you can't use, but I that really struck a chord with me, because I remember when I was working at Fox Sports, when we were doing those shows, and it's similar. We had a very small writing team. It was basically me and at times two others, and then a producer who sort of helped out. Had a good sense of humour and could chip in. But that was it to write. We do sort of 40 minutes of TV a week, so it was intense. But one of the things I realised in that, and I don't know if it's everyone's process, but part of my process was we had to write through all the stuff we couldn't do. Like really go, if we had no boundaries, where would you be? Yeah. And you'd write all this stuff that you knew you couldn't use to narrow down to the stuff you can, to find because if you just try and find only for me anyway, if I only considered the stuff that I knew we definitely could use, that wouldn't cross a lot, but then I'd write very safe and I'd write very bland. Yes. Because sometimes you go, oh, we could never say that. Actually, but we could say this bit if we reworded that, and then you come up with a clever way to play within the boundaries. Yes. And one of the things I found there was, and this is something I'd be interested in getting your take on this, because writing for other people, there's limitations depending on who you're writing for, to their delivery or to them or to what they're willing to say. But I found that the scariest thing for me is having no boundaries that I can write within, because I find that it's the crappy old adage, like pressure makes diamonds, like is having those boundaries to push against. Is where the comedy is. Oh, like, if you can just go out and do whatever you want, then there's nothing, like, what are you pushing against? What are you... Oh, yeah. So when we were, so the governess, who is the English chaser, and she's great. She's so funny. And, part of being able to write for someone is hanging out with them and getting a sense of them. And like last time she was out, I said to her, I said, have you ever met Elvis Costello? And she was like, oh, for goodness sake, he is really famous. I said, 10 minutes ago, you were just showing me a photo of you with will.i.am. And she was like, well, I was at a party with Robbie Williams recently, and we were discussing what you do if you're autistic and how you do with parties. And I said, what do you do if you're autistic and you're at a party? She said, you find Robbie Williams and you have a chat with him. And so she's got a bit of sass to her, it's really funny. So one day I had the chasers go out and they give a line off the back of what Larry's interviewed the contestant with, and I said something to the producer just to make her laugh, just something funny.
And the producer laughed so hard, she said, "You can have that one." I went, "Really?" And so I had the governess go out and tell Larry that she breaks into his room at night and shaves his head and puts his hair into her special pillow. And it's like there's nothing wrong with it, but that's a show that's on 5 till 6.
Yeah.
And there's something slightly weird about it. And it was great. You know, we filmed 126 episodes. Like, giving me...
That's a fun backstory too, that gives the audience an insight into like, oh man, they've got a life outside the little 30-minute window we get them for. There's this whole, you build this rich backstory of weirdness that might be going on outside the...
And sometimes they'll just give you a line, you know, like when I was working with Chris Brown on Dancing with the Stars, and sometimes I'd turn around to him and I would say the most heinous thing you've ever heard, and then he'd laugh and I'd say, "Now I'll think of 3 things that you can say," or you know, now we can make these jokes, you know. And that's part of what talent producing is keeping someone locked in, not just kind of, you know, being a good hang is really important. And but once again, we said some things that, like, I'll be interested to see if they make the cut, but they're right on the edge, and you just keep pitching them.
Yeah, that's and I think
comedy should be naughty.
Yes,
like this is what producers don't understand, is that TV producers, is that it doesn't have to be rude, but it can be naughty. Like, naughty is right on the edge. It's a little bit like, oh, come on, you know, it's, you know, like, it's Graham Kennedy, you know, doing Crow impersonations and going, "Fuck," you know, on TV, or, you know, like John Farnham back in his day, you know, he was naughty. He was a naughty boy. And, you know, so if you can do that in your comedy on mainstream television, I think people really enjoy that and they appreciate it.
Yeah, I 100% think you're right. And I think the thing too that, I don't know if it's a conscious decision that you make when you say that thing to Chris Brown that you definitely can't use.
Yeah.
But you make him laugh and then he trusts.
Yes.
Because the other thing is, talent sometimes are nervous and they're insecure. And if they're not someone who's come from a background, like he's a vet.
Yeah.
Like he's a very experienced TV personality.
Yeah.
But he's a vet. He didn't come up wanting to be a funny guy.
No.
So
and he is funny, but you know, so there was a joke that we had that he came up with an idea for a joke, and it was relied on tax collector as a punchline. And his instincts were right, but I knew it shouldn't be tax collector, it should be real estate agent. And I said that'll hit so much harder. And so we had this joke, and then we had the follow-up joke, and he didn't even get to the follow-up joke because the audience erupted over real estate agent. So that was his instincts, and I could just then...
Just a little comedy experience to tweak.
Yeah.
And that's where he's trusted your instincts because of...
Yeah.
He's going, oh, this is a funny guy. We hang out together, he makes me laugh.
Yeah, we're making each other laugh. We're having, you know, we're in this together. I'm never going to say anything that is... You know, I'm never going to put you in harm's way, but I'm going to see what we can get away with.
It is fascinating too, though, because there's so many people that are funny, but then they, like, one of the things that I amused me a lot at Fox would people would come in and like they'd talk about a funny concept, but they'd be like, yeah, but you're a comedian, you know, like you'll be able to tell us if this is going to be funny or not. I never said it, but you know, that's just something I started calling myself. There's no qualification. There's no...
Oh yeah, you didn't go to uni.
I just started doing this.
Yeah.
And it was the only way I could describe what I do.
When did you start calling yourself a comedian? Do you know how long into your career?
Probably when I was going into Fox, I was doing audience warm-up then, so probably 5 or 6 years when so maybe even a bit longer.
Yeah.
When I was happy, because I was going in there and there was, like, I started there as audience warm-up.
Yeah.
It's funny, I had a comedian say to me once, he goes, you know, you did what every audience warm-up person thinks they're going to do. You start as audience warm-up and end up on the show.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I got lucky. But that was also just, like, I just started because I got along well with James, the professor, and I'd text him joke ideas if he ever had one. And then they started to get on, and then, hey, do you want to come to the writing meeting? And then, and just sort of, the more and more I got on, they were like, well, let's get you in here. You're actually adding value. And then, it all went from there. But
My accountant had to tell me that I couldn't call myself a barman anymore because I hadn't worked in a bar for 2 years. That's true. But it just seemed so audacious to put comedian down on my tax return. And he said, but that's where you're earning your money.
When flying overseas into another country where you got to write your occupation, I've mostly just. I remember the first time I was flying in New Zealand because I had to get on a cruise ship there, so I was like, I can't, like I need to put a sort of entertainer. And the guy was like, "What sort of entertainer?"
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing?" And, like, and he was lovely about it, but he was very fascinated.
Yeah. No, it's
How far in were you when you?
Like about 4 or 5 years in, and I hadn't earned any money from anything else, and then literally my accountant said, "Mate, you haven't worked in a bar for 2 years. Like we can't put that on the it's actually lying on your tax form." But then you host Raw Comedy, and you'll have someone get up and it's their second gig, and they'll say, "I'll tell you what's hard about being a comedian," and you go, "What?"
Yeah.
Wow. Good on you. But
it's funny. Yeah.
It's audacious.
It's funny that now, like I hosted Raw this year, and went backstage, and because there's so many more open mics now.
Yes.
I just went backstage, and it was one of the earlier heats. So that's the people who knew it was coming up. They signed up early.
Yes.
And I went backstage. So I said, "Anyone? So how long's everyone been doing comedy?" And one of the guys goes, "Oh, 6 years." And I was like, "This was when I did Raw. This was my second ever gig."
Yeah.
But now there's these people coming in, and that good quality. It was one of those ones where as the MC, you get to just back announce the whole night. You don't have to wander out. But
the best experience I had at Raw Comedy, it's a while ago now, I haven't done it for a while, was Beck Melrose. I did Beck Melrose. I think I did a semi-final, and she was on in the third bracket, so that's hard work because there's a lot of acts on, and a lot of people have left after they've seen their friend, and she went out and she was the funniest person that night.
She's a gun writer too. I think you guys have worked together.
Yeah,
she's worked on.
She works on Gruen and Question Everything, and she's been on Question Everything. She's great.
She's She's one of those people when when you first see someone, you're like, "Oh, I like the way your brain works."
Oh yeah. Well, you know what it is she's a good writer, but her presentation is so polite, and her sense of humour is really sharp. And then if you're not listening properly, you're like, "Oh, what's this nice woman? Oh my God!"
Yeah, she's got a few of those that are fantastic. So before we go, because I am conscious of I'm taking up a lot of your time. What do you like if you got now everything's set up, you can work on whatever, you've got access to work on whatever, make whatever creatively you want to work. What's the field do you reckon you go down now? Is it more stand up? Are you TV, film? Do you would you want to be have your own show that you run?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think you'd love to make movies, but and you'd love to have a TV show that you worked on, something that's got a heavy narrative that people can lock into. I think sometimes part of the problem is that I have too many interests, and so you focus. Sometimes you're better off just being focused on one thing. But I think we were talking earlier about writing books. Before we started recording, that feels like the world where you can just be in charge of it. I think for my emotional balance is if I can work on these TV shows and things like that and be helping other people out, working with comedians on their live shows, etc., that's great. That scratches an itch. But then, I've been thinking about this a lot, but when I was a kid, the two most influential TV shows that I saw that have had an ongoing influence on me in what I'm interested in was Twin Peaks and the British series by Dennis Potter, The Singing Detective. And that was kind of like the first time I'd come into contact with something that could be serious, but something could be funny, and something's not real, it's heightened.
It's not necessarily going to tell you whether it's been serious or funny. You've got
to really pay attention, and sometimes, the absurd will be sad and the straight will be funny, and those two series which I saw, I'm guessing, I think I saw Singing Detective before I saw Twin Peaks. I'm pretty certain about that. But those two things coalesced into having an effect on what I find interesting now. So I guess, writing a novel or something like that, that's something you can control, and you can get your expression out through that. With TV and movies, you have to be really lucky that you're working with people who are on your wavelength. It's like you can write stuff and then you can see it be made and go, Jesus, like what happened? That's not quite what I was thinking. So
the editing, the shooting, even the way it's shot, like they're all basically drafts of the story that you've constructed originally.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily you're trusting your written vision to someone to give their visual vision.
Yeah.
And then the final draft, I suppose, is the edit.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that was working at Fox. That was the thing I learnt. One of the things I learnt most, like big realizations I had, is how much writing in a different form, obviously, is in that edit.
Yeah.
Like how important the edit is, how it can change the feel and tone and the timing of everything.
Well, I didn't do myself any favors when I used to do the comedy festival every year, because I used to see Melbourne Comedy Festival as an opportunity to do different things, and
I remember you always had a different show.
Yeah. So you do, like, one year I'd just do straight stand up because that's what I felt like doing, and then the next year I'd do a play, and then the next year I'd do like a one person performance, with lots of tech and music cues and things like that. And then the year after that, I'd just feel like doing stand-up. And that is not good for your long-term career for an audience, because for people listening, if you're starting out in stand-up, find your thing and do variations on your thing. When you see Hughesy is the master of somehow being lower status, even though he's a multi-millionaire stand-up comedian who's been on TV and radio for 20 plus years and sells out massive theatres. But I say that as a compliment to him.
Yeah, no, because he's the guy that you don't like, despite all that success.
Yeah.
That if he's like, bar or something, the tradie there, the whoever, like the work, they all just identify with him. They don't.
Oh, yeah.
No one's thinking about the fact that he's been that successful for that long and that basically he's set for life.
I did a gig with him in January, and his arm was in a sling because of he hurt his arm, dislocated his shoulder with his first surfing lesson, and all I could think was, you must be fucking wrapped, because now you get to be my arm, But and it was funny, and it was. So, but I was a pain in the ass. I was like doing all sorts of bizarre things.
I think though that's like I kind of admire that, in that you've chased your creativity rather than chased an audience, which I think, I don't know, like it may be me just once again being lazy, making excuses for not having enough, building enough online profile and building that audience. But part of it is like that. The reason you got into it is the creativity.
Yes, that was 100% the reason I got into it.
So, what's like, there'd be nothing worse than building an audience you don't want to perform for, that wants something you don't want to do anymore.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's why, when we were talking to your manager, Artie, earlier, I was saying, in 2023, I just had a cracking run with the stand-up show that I wrote. It was the first one I'd done in 5 years, and I loved it. And I had a really good time. And then my management got in touch with me in July and said, well, do you have an idea for a new show? And I was like, nah. But the sensible thing, Like the sensible thing from an audience point of view,
From a business point
from
of
a
view.
business point of view, would have been to, let's call the show Hammo, and then I'll think of things to say and I'll put them into an order and I'll say them. But I just don't want to work that way.
Yeah, that's where I think if you had the financial freedom, like if you had, like, you were set for money or whatever, there's, for me, the thing would be, I just want to get enough security that I can be creative in the ways that interest me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A show every 2 to 3 years is heaps.
Because I have thoughts.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
and it'll be interesting, it'll be better. And
Well,
this is where we find out if Artie actually watches this, by the way, on his phone call saying, don't listen to Hammo.
No, that's fair enough, Artie. Do not listen to me at all. Remember, I said it was a mistake. But yeah, but I think going back to the start of this is that I think the being able to diversify my skill set into directing and producing and talent producing and writing, I think that there was an innate necessity for it to develop, because doing stand-up every year, like it was slowly killing my love of the arts. And then like I only really got that love for it back once I started doing it less.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing I miss, and the thing from now I'm doing just pretty much just stand-up, is I partly miss that, the thing of being in an office with other people.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just that, like, and don't get me wrong, like, I don't want to be in the wrong office
No.
with the wrong people.
You want to be in
doing
the right
something.
office.
I want to be in the right. I love what I do, but every now and then I'm like, there is a social interaction, and that's what my wife is very incredibly supportive of my stupid dreams. I was talking to her about. She goes, "Why don't you just go have lunch with them, meet with them, go grab a coffee with people? That's work too, you know."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah." My idea is I grew up too linear. Like, I've got to be sitting at the computer trying to create.
Oh,
That's not how it works.
I reckon getting in touch with comedians and saying, "Hey, I have a couple of ideas that I want to throw around. Do you want to get lunch?" Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
You know, that's both people working, doing it casually, having something to eat, throwing ideas around, going off on tangents. Tangents are important.
Well, sometimes tangents lead to the thing you didn't think was going to be a thing.
Not thinking about it, that's when the joke really pops. Hey, you should say blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, being able to throw ideas around it's fun. I've worked with Cameron James on his last couple of shows, and it's a delight to sit there and go through his
He's a
ideas.
talented man.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
But he's also fun to work with as well. And I have no ego in if I make a suggestion and he doesn't like it. It's like, that's fine. Like, this is the safe space. We're throwing this out. We could do this. We could do that. We could try this. No, you want to do that? Yeah, great. Let's push that aside. Oh, let's go back to it, you know.
Yeah. And that goes back to that thing of just overall, like, you throw as many ideas out there.
Yeah.
You got to go through the ideas that don't work. You learn as much from them as you do to help find the one that will.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nothing better than that moment where you go, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's it's just part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. You had your opportunity to fly. You didn't make it, but God bless you.
Yeah.
Put you down here.
We learnt something.
Yeah.
Even if it's just that was a shit idea.
Yeah.
Yes. Mate, thank you so much for doing this. Before we go, plug everything you want to plug. Where can people find you online and see your videos of you preparing your breakfast?
My reconstructing breakfast, if I ever get around to it. If people want to find me, they can find me on Instagram, Justin Hamilton Comedian. Also at my site, you can go to justinhamilton.com.au, or if that's too hard to remember, bigsquidpod.com. I have a podcast, which is ostensibly like, it's schizophrenic like me. Like, it really is. There's interviews with people, there's TV talk, there's movie talk, there's just me sometimes. There's a 32 chapter audio book called The Ultimate under under Beautiful Tales for the Disenchanted on that same feed. And then there's some short stories. So it's a hodgepodge of stuff. So if you go there, I also write an ongoing blog, which is a writing exercise each week, just a short blog called Dispatches from the Fury Road. So if people would like more stuff, they can find it there.
Yeah. And Young Comedians Corner Hamo anywhere you find him and just ask him for advice. There's no problem with your act too hard that he can't solve, and he's got nothing but time. I love that.
I'm always up for a chat. Like, I'm definitely up for a chat. And
no, you're one of the people I guarantee when you're giving people advice on stuff, it's good. Like, I've got a bit of feedback from you on things over the years, and I don't think you even realised, like, just little comments you've made. I'm like, oh, fuck, I hadn't thought of it that way, and it's helped. Just
you know what? I try to never forget to be a fan. So every time I'm watching someone, I'm locked in because I want them to succeed and I want to be a fan. So then, because you get that excitement from it, then it's like, oh yeah, you could do this, you could do that, or you could say this, or you could say that. Yeah,
mate, it's very helpful. Thank you very much for doing this, mate.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers.